Hello and welcome back. It's puzzle time with Sudoku Sleuth, and we're continuing our week of two puzzles a day, just playing catch up on all the incredible puzzles that have been released recently. Now, I'm particularly looking forward to this one because although we just literally just did a Fog of War puzzle, when I saw this one, I couldn't pass it up. In my mind, it feels like all the constructors are almost racing towards how can I create a Fog of War puzzle that reveals as little of the grid as possible. And I think this constructor, which you'll take a look at in a second, has probably won that competition. Now, the name of the actual puzzle is called Just the Tip. And if you get your mind out of the gutter for a second, obviously we're all infamously taught that icebergs have only just 10% or less of them visible above the line of the water, and then 90% plus is actually below the line of the water. Which, totally makes sense. If you think about the density of ice versus water, that's why so much of it is actually floating, but just above the water to get buoyancy, and then the rest is beneath it. Well, let's take a look at the puzzle that I'm selling so hard. What do we have in place? So we have Just the Tip version 2 by GDC. And when I took the screenshot of this for the thumbnail, I thought that's quite amusing. There is literally nothing on there. It is completely covered in a fog of war. And I'm sure all of you are now thinking, Sleuth, how can we possibly solve this? There is nothing for us to place a digit. But as soon as we read the rules, I think we're all going to have a bit of a clue on how to get started with this. So, first one, normal Sudoku rules apply. So that's fairly straightforward. Digits 1 to 9 in every row, every column, and every 3x3 box. Okay? That's fairly standard. Fog of War, the grid is covered in fog. Placing correct digits reveals clues in the surrounding 3x3 area. So I really don't want to do this, but because I've read the rules, I actually know. I say I know. I'm absolutely certain what this first digit is. So I'm going to place something that is incorrect. 9. Now, once you place the correct digit in there, all the surrounding fog is essentially cleared. Think of it almost like a light beacon that just shines into the fog and reveals everything that's around it. Now, here's the rule that will actually help us break into the puzzle. Rotational pairs. If the grid is rotated 180 degrees, the matching cells add to 10, i.e. row 2, column 3, plus row 8, column 7, row 8, column 7 will add up to 10 if you sum them together. So that's really, I think, the main thing that will help us solve this puzzle is essentially it's entirely rotationally symmetrical. Which, when I come across these types of puzzles, I absolutely love and adore. It's just very rarely spelt out as part of the rule set. But I think given the puzzle is entirely covered in fog, it really had to be spelt out. So just keep that in mind because I think it's going to be absolutely critical for the solve. So, this example is row 2, column 3, row 8, column 7. But obviously these two are going to be rotationally symmetrical in the sense that they add up to 10. These two are going to be rotationally symmetrical. Even in the same box, they're going to be rotationally symmetrical. And that's the biggest clue I've given you so far on how to break in. Now, lastly, we have arrows. Digits along an arrow sum to the digits in that arrow circle. And all arrows have a single digit total and cannot branch, cross, or share a cell with another arrow. Now, I think the last part of that is really to help us use kind of tips of arrows when we get them unveiled as we kind of push back this fog of war. So if we end up, for example, I'm going to try and draw this like an arrow. I don't think I'm going to be able to actually. Yeah, let's try that actually. No. So essentially, imagine that this is the tip of an arrow. And it goes like that. All that's, and we end up having to get the right digit in here, which was, our fake 9. You'll see that tip, but you'll be able to assert almost immediately that it's never going to cross anything else. And for example, if there is another arrow over here, that this one will go down horizontally to make sure it never interferes with this one. Last thing that obviously, goes with arrow cells is these two cells are going to sum up to a value, and that value will be placed in the circular end of the arrow. Well, if you're not intimidated by everything I've just revealed, if you have a clue on how to get this started and break into this puzzle, link will be in the description down below as per usual. And with that said, let me restart the clock and get on. So I'll show you the break-in, and I want to explain it in two different ways. Now, I'm absolutely confident the center digit in here is a 5. And there's two reasons why I'm confident of that. First off, with all rotationally symmetrical puzzles, you have to have a 5 in the center. And I think the way to try and explain this is, let me try and put a 3 in here for a moment. And let me try and then put 3s. Actually, this is a pretty bad idea in case I reveal something that I shouldn't. Yeah, so if that's a 3, I'm clearly going to have to be a bit careful how I place these. Is that roughly right? Roughly. Now, the rotational symmetry of all of these, it means that this cell is the equivalent. Actually, that was a bad placement in here, and therefore bad placement in there. Let's try that again. Means that this has to be a 7, rotational counterpart of this one. That will have to be a 7 in here, and so on and so forth. This will have to have a 7 in, actually, pardon me, in there. Now the question is, what would you have rotationally symmetrical with this? The only cell that is rotationally symmetrical with this cell is itself. So somehow this cell is now going to have to be both 3 and 7, which is clearly nonsense. And that's one of the reasons why you can only ever put a 5 in here, and there you go. Because if you rotationally, if essentially if you put any other digit in there, you will break the puzzle. You will end up with a 7 that has no 3 as a rotational symmetry, and obviously the 3 and 7 here are an example. Right, so we've got a 3-cell arrow pointing to this digit, and whatever it is, it's in here. So minimum this can be is obviously a 6. A 6 would put a 6 in there, would put a 4 in here, and you can see immediately how that breaks, because 6 has to be made up of 1, 2, and 3. So that's not 6. 7 would require a 3, also doesn't work because a 7 is 1, 2, and 4. 8 maybe. 8 would require a 2, which would normally work because you could have 1, 2, and 5 as the 3 combinations that add up to 8. But look at that, we've already placed the 5. So this can only be 9. Rotational symmetry would mean this is a 1. With the 1, you can have 1, 3, or 5, but the 5 is placed. So this is 2 or 6. And therefore, these are 4 or 8. And to complete the box, these are 3 or 7. And this 9 is a 1 in here. Beautiful. I guess it's leading us to think about column 1 for a moment. So these are 2, 8, 4, and 6. Now, here's sort of the example that I showed you earlier with my green and purple arrows. So you can be confident, given they're both going down this way, I'm actually going to draw this. Given they're both going down this way, you could be totally confident that they're both exiting that way. And the reason I say I can be totally confident of that is obviously if this arrow terminates here, I'm going to have to duplicate the digit, kind of like I did with the 9s in here. The fact that it's going in there means it absolutely has to continue. Now the minimum I can make this would be 2 and 4, which would place a 6. Actually, let me think about this, excuse me. I'm kind of assuming that these are the two cells. There obviously could be a third. So nothing stops me, for example, from having 2, 4. Here, I'll show you. And a 3. And then a 9. That's fine. That's one option. Now, the other option... actually, no, that's not possible. Look at that. Because if I place 1, 2, 3, and 4, it means the minimum this is 5 and 6. And somehow we're going to have to get to 11. But it gives us the clue that all arrows have a single digit total. So I can't actually use 1, 2, 3, and 4 in here to get to 9. That is not possible. So if I, these were the options 2, 4, 6, and 8. So if it is 2, 4, that would place a 6 in here, which isn't possible. The next option along would be 2 and 6, placing an 8. And then the other possibility, 2 and 8, clearly is nonsense. That's not going to work because that would get us to 10. So that is 4, 8, 2, 6. That's got to be an 8. And I've shown that 2, 4 can't be a 6. 2, 4 can't add a 1 because it's already in the box and in the column. 3 would break the puzzle for this arrow. Yep, I'm happy with that. That's an 8. Brilliant. That's a 2. Excellent. Right, let's go back to this arrow now. So the minimum I can make this now is 3, can't be 4. 5 would be far too much. Well, 5 is fine. It's just there's an 8. So that would almost certainly require a 1 here. And then a 9 somewhere. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 is the minimum. Can't use the 6. 3 and 7 is too much. So yeah, I think 3, 5, that couldn't be an 8 again. That has to be a 1. There we go. That's this one. And that's a 9. That's a 1. I don't think we know what these are, do we? 3, 5, no, but we can at least pencil mark them here. That's 5 and 7. What do we need to finish up in here? So we need a 3 in this box. Can't be down there. That's the 3, therefore that's the 7. And then to finish up, we need a 1, which we can place, and a 6. So 4 and 9. Right, we're given these two arrows, which will clearly, with rotational symmetry, play with this one as well. So minimum we can make these. No 1s, no 3s. So the minimum is 2 or 4 to get to a 6. Now the rotational counterpart of that would be 8 and 6. And this 6 would now be a 4 in here. And we can clearly see this arrow is leading to somewhere. I don't know, is it here? Is it whatever it is? It's not stopping here. Otherwise we'd be duplicating the same digit. And 6 as a minimum and 4 as a minimum, we're already at 10 and we need it to be in one cell. So not an option. I think 2 is a must. 2 is a must because if I don't use a 2, 1, 3, 4, this would be at 5. This would be at 9, which is fine. No, because it's already in the row. So, excuse me. So it's definitely a 2. And therefore definitely an 8 in here. Not necessarily the 6 though. I think whatever I have, because yeah, here's the 1 looking at this cell. That can't be the 8. This has to be the 8. Therefore, this has to be the 2. And yeah, it is a 2-cell arrow that gets to here. So what do we have? It's either 7 or 8. It's not 6, we said, and it's not 9. Meaning this is 5 or 6. And therefore, this is 2 or 3 with What's 5 or 6? 4 or 5. So the maximum I can make this is 8, 5 and 3, but it's not available. And the minimum is 6. So this is 6 or 7 in here, which is rotationally symmetrical to 4 or 3. Are they really both options? And I'm just... feels like I'm missing something because, you know, we're out of clues. So I was expecting we should be able to make a break in here, and I'm missing something. Are all my numbers correct? Yep, 7 with the 3, 8 with the 2, 4 with the 6, 5 with the 5, 6 with the 4, 7 with the 3. Yeah, it looks like I've placed everything else. Some sort of doubles I'm missing somewhere. Six, 8. Let's try this. 6 and 8 would make 4 and 2. And then that would be 6 and 4. So that's fine. Maybe, yeah, the rotational symmetry is probably what I'm after. So 6, 8 is fine. 5 and 7 would make this 5 and 3, which we said is not possible because we have the 8 in here. So 5 is not possible. Yeah, 6, 8, and therefore 4, 2, 6, 4. Are any of these looking at anything? Surprisingly not. We're still stuck with trying to figure out what these are. So again, this arrow needs to leave the box. Does it have to leave the box? No, it's at least 2 cells long. So minimum I can make this would be 3, 5. 1, 2, and 4 are gone. Now I think the 3, 5 is too big. One's already gone from both rows. Sorry, 3, 5 is problematic. Too big is the wrong word. Because 1 is not available. So there isn't a 1 joining them to, let's say, a 9 down here. And the problem 3, 5 is, the reason it's problematic is the 8 is already gone in the box and gone in this row. So I think this cannot be 3, 5. This is 3, 6. And it's joined with a 9, which is not in here. It's got to be in the same box. There we go. And 3, 6 in here means it is 4, 7. Oh yeah, there we go. That's 7, that's 4, that's 3, that's 6. We can do a lot more now. 6, 8, 4, 3, 7. Can we do any more? No, I mean, it's not hugely useful. It just helps us with the solve, but it doesn't reveal the last bit of fog that we need to undo. Right, this is not 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow, this is 5 at a minimum. In fact, take a look at all of these cells. It is actually exactly 5 because 6, 7, 8, and 9 is a naked single. That's 5, which is this cell in here. That's 5. We have 2 more. We know that the 1 is up here because there's no 1 in this box. There's no 1 on this cell. That's the 1. That's the 9. Now we have, I'm going to say 2 and 3 as the remaining options. 1 with a 2 and a 5 would make this an 8, which is available. With a 3, it's a 9, which is still available, isn't it? This 1 is this 9, this 5. Okay, so let's try and do this again. It's probably rotational symmetry telling us what this is. So this is, or at least these two are 7 and 8. Now, this cell, I mean, 1 is no, 1 is not available. 1 would be here with an 8 to get to 9, so that's not 1. 2, 7 actually looks pretty good. 3, 6 not available. 4, 5 not available. So this is, in fact, a 2, 7 pair to make a 9, meaning it's these two cells. Interesting. How did I break it? These two cells. Sorry, I'm just going to think about this. This is the same as this cell, which is either 1 or 2. Yeah, I did say 1 wasn't working. So this is 2. This is the 7. The 2's rotational counterpart would be an 8, forcing this to be a 2, this to be a 3. The 2 here would make this an 8. This 7 would make this a 3. And yeah, we're just doing straightforward Sudoku at this point, I imagine. Excuse me, 7. 7. Yeah, so now I'm all caught up. I could just start doing some Sudoku. So we need a 4 in this row. It's got to be in here. That's the 6. Therefore, this is 6. Kind of odd that it was the 4 6s in here. I'll take it. What do we need in there? We need a 5 somewhere in here and a 2. 2 is in there. Therefore 8. We need 5 and 7. By the looks of things, neither is known. So that would be 3, 5. We do know what this one is. That's a 1, that's a 9. We know we need a 4, which can only be in here. And a 7, which can only be there. And that gives us the 5 and the 3, and therefore the 5 and 7. We know what this is. That's a 9. 1. We need a 3, 7. That 3 tells us that's the 3, that's the 7. We need a 5. We don't actually know where the 5 goes. And an 8. We know where that goes at least. 8, 2. And if I've not made a mistake, that's the solution to today's puzzle. It's a absolutely phenomenal puzzle, GDC. And like I said at the beginning, I mean, if there was indeed a competition about fog of war puzzles and how much of the puzzle you can cover, you have won. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's video and today's puzzle as much as I have. And see you back for the next video. Bye for now.